All right, welcome to Shelf Life, our rural grocery webinar series. I'm Zachary Page. I work with RSDP. So yeah, once a month, typically first Wednesdays of the month at 3 p.m. We'll be hosting different topics, as you see here on the right. We've got loan basics and best practices with a really great array of speakers here. So we got really lucky to have such experts here with us. And that's kind of how we'll be rolling with this program. We'll be getting in people from the industry to help you and to help the stores. You can see like next month is June 4th on a Wednesday there about grant writing. So I work with RSDP, Regional Sustainable Development Partnerships. We work in each region, Northwest, Northeast, Central, Southwest, Southeast. And under these four focus areas you can see here, we're kind of in the resilient communities, I think, area right now with grocery work, as well as agricultural food systems, because we get in local foods and we work on food systems there as well. This is our resource center. So this link here, or if you just type in rural grocery stores, University of Minnesota, RSDP, you'll get that website where we'll have all of our resources that we'll get and gather through the web series, but also things that we've accumulated over the last 10 years. Like we've done a really wide grocery survey that went out to 123 stores. So a lot of great data on what stores are needing, and then that helps us figure out basically where we can go to the legislation and try to get more funding for grocery stores down the line. So this is some of the results that we got from some of those surveys. So we know that infrastructure is a challenge, and getting funding for that as well as equipment. And you could see, yeah, aging infrastructure is one of those challenge points. Well, I'm just gonna pass it along to Phillip here, our loan experts, and then we'll pass it down to the other speakers as well.
Okay.
Phillip, take it away.
Thanks, Zach. So my name is Phillip Hintz. I'm with West Central Initiative. We're one of 6 initiative foundations that cover the state of Minnesota. We exist to kind of just support the communities in our region. My specific hat that I wear is in business development and economic development and small business lending. My background before I came here is about 15 years in traditional banking, both consumer and commercial banking. If you want to hit the next slide. Today, we're going to talk about why grocers borrow money and what they think about it and what their bankers and their lenders think about it, because it's not always the same. So the simple question first, why do grocers borrow money? It's because they want to have something today that will help them make more money tomorrow. And that seems oversimplistic, but it's important to keep that in mind, because when that gets out of whack, things go bad fast. You want to hit the next slide? So what the money is for is really going to determine if a loan or borrowing money is a good idea. We're going to look at a couple quick examples just to see, and I want you to think as you're looking at them, is this something that's going to help the business make money tomorrow? Yes or no? You want to hit the next slide? So some of these are pretty cut and dried. Purchase real estate, purchase equipment. That makes a ton of sense. Of course, that's going to help you make money. These are things where it couldn't make sense to take on a loan like that. Purchasing inventory. Ooh, we're crossing a line a little bit there. Inventory is already pretty expensive. To be adding interest expense to that is pretty spooky. Covering payroll or paying yourself. Just because a bank will say yes doesn't make it a good idea. Banks might say yes to a loan like that, but in general, when businesses or grocers or anyone finds themselves taking on debt to cover payroll, things have gone pretty pear-shaped. This isn't how they planned it out. The next slide. It's important to know there are loans that are a bad idea for you, but they might be a good idea for the lender. It is your job to watch out for your best interest. So that's a weird thing to say, though. because it's not intuitive. Why would a lender make a loan that isn't great for the business? If you want to hit the next slide. How lenders think about you is very important, and it's not the same way that you think about your business. You need to care about this sort of thing because it will help you plan your lending, your borrowing. It'll help you plan your business, know what's available, know what may or may not be a good idea, and the implications. Slide. There's two big questions that every lender obsesses over, and they have to. And it doesn't really matter why they are lending out money, they have to answer these two questions. Um, the first question, if you want to hit the slide, yeah, are we going to get paid back? It's a silly thing to say, but lenders have to be obsessed with this question at a certain level because if you're not going to get paid back, you're done playing the game. Whatever your motivation for lending is, if it's to make money or to develop a community or to develop an industry, if the circle stops spinning, it's game over. And then the second question there, oh no, what happens if I don't get paid back? This is a super simplistic view of how lenders think about things, but it is a very big deal. Let's dive into that first question a little bit. The next slide. Are we going to get paid back? A really common misconception between business owners and lenders is, what is a lender looking for? If you hit that slide, you'll see the first point, and a point of misunderstanding. Profits do not pay back loans. It's a subtle point because profitable businesses usually can pay back their loans. But at a certain very real level, profits don't pay back loans. It's very possible to have a profitable business not be able to pay its loans, or likewise have a business that isn't particularly profitable have no trouble paying their loans. Give me that next slide. The difference is that cash flow pays back loans. Usually those are almost the same thing, but they are not. And it really comes down to just a couple very key points on your financial statements. If you were with us last month, they talked about this sort of thing. Give me that next slide. Lenders care a lot about non-cash expenses. We're going to land here for just a second. There's only a few of them on a profit and loss or income and expense sheet, whatever you want to call it. There's only a few of those that don't actually represent cash leaving the company. The big three are going to be amortization and depreciation, which are kind of the same thing, and interest expense. Depreciation is the most common one for grocers. That represents equipment and real estate wearing out over time. If you depreciate a freezer over 15 years, you're not paying out 1/15th of the value of the freezer every year. It's just wearing out. But that's not actually cash leaving the business. That cash could still pay a loan, but it is an expense as far as profitability is concerned. So when banks look at profit and loss statements, they're going to be adding back any non-cash expenses. And this is a really common misunderstanding between business owners and banks and lenders in general. Let's go to that next big question then. What if we don't get paid back? This is the sort of thing that keeps lenders up at night because this is where programs are made and destroyed, not getting paid back when you are a lending institution. It just isn't sustainable. We go to the next slide. The name of the game is collateral. Collateral is a very simple thing. It's what goes from the borrower to the lender because the loan didn't get paid back. Usually it's real estate or equipment or something like that. But it's important to look at it not just from how you look at the thing's value, but try to imagine what the lender's going to look at it because there's a lot of disconnect there. It's very different. If you hit the next slide, you look at something like a piece of real estate and you might have a number in mind that you think it's worth. But you're a grocer, you know how to use that store to make money. Your lender doesn't know how to do that. And different kinds of collateral have different sorts of problems. Give me one more slide and we'll talk about the different options. So if it's real estate, maybe the lender is going to say like, your $100,000 building, I'll call it 80,000. I think I could sell it for that. Your freezers, your equipment, your point of sale machines, I could maybe get half of what you think they're worth. I could maybe get half. And then you get down to things like inventory. They don't know how to sell your inventory, certainly your perishable inventory. I've never even heard of a lender that would know what to do with $1,000 worth of apples. You can take those apples and sell them and make money, and that's your business. But your lender has no idea what to do. They would spoil before they even figured out what they were looking at. So they're not going to apply any value to that kind of collateral. It's just nothing there. Well, because of there's so many discounts on the left side here, sometimes they're going to ask for more collateral. Sometimes they're going to ask for personal property. Maybe they're asking for a mortgage against your house to help cover this. And almost universally, they're going to ask for a personal guarantee. That's almost using you as collateral. It's you personally guaranteeing what the business will do. Let's go one more slide on this point. At the end of the day, every agreement you sign with a lender is real. At the front end of things, no one wants to ever foreclose on someone's home. I've never met a lender who actually got into this business for that desire. But if things go sideways and they have a mortgage against your house, they may not have a choice. That is a real thing. All of those agreements are real. Even if someone were to say it's just a formality or it's just an abundance of caution, it's a real agreement. So just be aware of that. They're not asking for things they don't need. They need this at a certain level. Well, let's get into then that last way of thinking about lenders. If you want to give me a slide, the different types. They all think about getting paid back, but different types of lenders do think about it a little bit differently. There's two big questions. One more slide there. And it boils down to the lender's ultimate goal about why they're lending money and their plan to reach that goal, how they plan to get that done. And we'll go to my last slide and we'll talk about a few different examples real quick. On the left, we have banks. Banks are simple in that they all have the same goal. They all intend to make money. That's the whole game. But how they do that is very different. If you're looking at a global or a national bank, something like HSBC, back one, or like a Wells Fargo, their how they make money is to lend to huge companies. Some of these banks lend to nations at large. If you were to come in and say, I need 20 grand for a freezer, they don't know how to help you. They don't know anything about rural Minnesota, anything. That's not their plan. It's a pretty bad mismatch. It's hard to have that relationship. When you get down into regional and community banks, that's where I see a lot more success because it's in their interest to understand you. You know, if you're talking to the First Bank of Bobsville, Minnesota, their market is the city of Bobsville. That doesn't exist, but they're gonna take the time to understand every business in that town because that's their goal. That's their how they're going to make money is by being perfect for these people. So it's good to develop those relationships. It's good to have many relationships. I would say at least have a relationship with two banks. Sometimes relationships, they go up and down, and you don't want to have your need and the relationship downturn at your one bank mean you can't get a loan. Have two relationships out there. And lastly, kind of non-traditional lenders on the right-hand side, you have cities. A lot of them are really interested in facade programs. They want pretty downtowns. They want beautiful businesses. Your vendors, be very careful. Some of them can offer good, reasonable terms. Others are offering you a credit card and a different hat, and you can really screw up your inventory costs. But they're an option. Nonprofits, CDFIs, we're going to hear from a couple of those in a second, but they have specific goals in mind. Figure out what that goal is. They'll tell you. And if that lines up with what you need, that could be really good. And then government programs, they come and they go. Some of them are really good. Some of them are really good, but just for a short time. Others aren't a good fit. But keep your ears to the ground. Keep your eyes open because when things do come up, it can be very competitive, but very, very useful. We're going to jump ahead then to the next person. I hope this was good, and we're going to have some examples at the end to talk through some of these things.
Well, thank you
Thanks,
so
Phillip.
much, Philip, and with the West Central Initiative. And yeah, we'll get a little bit of time to talk later. Here is Roderick McCullough.
Hey, everybody. I'm Roderick McCulloch. I'm a loan officer with Shared Capital Cooperative. Shared Capital is a CDFI, And I'm going to kind of share a few links, some while I'm talking, some when I'm done. The first one I plugged in there is a link to just what is a CDFI. And as Philip alluded to, CDFIs are businesses that are designed to develop communities, provide economic development through various forms. Some are credit unions, some are banks, etc. And here's a link of ones in Minnesota. Shared Capital is a CDFI. We've been lending in Minnesota for over 45 years. Started in the Twin Cities when a handful of food co-ops couldn't get traditional financing, and so they pooled their own resources and would give one another microloans. From there, it's just grown and grown, and now we operate nationally. And while there are thousands of CDFIs across the country, we are one of the very, very few handful that work exclusively with cooperatively owned businesses. A co-op is a business that's owned and operated for the benefit of its members. There are housing co-ops, there are worker co-ops, and there are consumer co-ops, and there are producer co-ops. Most food co-ops across the country are consumer co-ops, where community members purchase equity in the business, and then they get to vote and elect a board of directors who are in charge of essentially running the operations. What else did I want to say? That's basically it. We have up to 25 million in assets, so we can loan up to about $1.25 million, but we've got ties to CDFIs and other lenders across the country. So we're very good at finding other sources of capital to meet your project needs. CDFIs are mission focused. So for us, the impact is really about trying to create cooperative businesses that are focused on democratic governance and improving the work-life balance for their members and their workers. And that's it. I'll keep putting in different links in the chat. And happy to talk to any of you. If you're interested in learning more about cooperatives, feel free to shoot me an email. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Roderick. And I'm going to move on here to Emily with the Entrepreneur Fund. Take it away, Emily.
Thank you so much. So I'm Emily with Entrepreneur Fund, and just like Shared Capital Co-op, we are a mission-based lender, also a CDFI and nonprofit. And our mission is to actively partner with entrepreneurs to stimulate the growth of successful businesses and advance economic development in rural and underserved communities. We do this through lending and advising. Go to the next slide. So the region that we serve is in northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. I'm specifically in northern St. Louis County, but we have staff that can help people or grocers and other businesses in the regions listed here. We serve 29 counties and 12 Native nations. Can you go to the next slide? So at Entrepreneur Fund, we can do loans up to $750,000 to small businesses. We partner all of those loans with tailored advising that's tailored to your goals. And then we also have some programs that we offer to business owners, including our Be Strategic class, Profit Mastery, and our Women's Business Alliance. Next slide. Specifically, what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is our Healthy Foods program. So right now we have a program out there where we can do flexible terms for business owners that are in the food retail or food producer world. We will also couple that with some special healthy foods advising for those business owners. The goal of this project is to help essential businesses remain viable and grow so that they can continue to serve their communities. Working with grocery stores supports not only food access, but also gives local jobs, creating economic stability in our communities. Next slide. So some of the ways that you might use some of these healthy foods funds is replacing dated equipment, investing in technology, expanding businesses, purchasing inventory, hiring staff, updating the interior of business, purchasing a new or existing store, and really anything that any food retailer or food producer in that realm might need for their business. We can work on that with this special healthy foods program. Next slide. So one important thing is, in order to get a loan with a commercial banker or a CDFI, is that there's a bunch of stuff that a banker is going to ask you for. And so this is our application checklist that Entrepreneur Fund gives to our clients. I wanted to share that with you all, so you also have this list. But getting these documents isn't just going to help you get a loan at Entrepreneur Fund. This is generally what other banks are going to look for. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. Next slide. So the first thing that we're going to ask for are financial documents. So we're going to get 2 years of tax returns, at least 2 years of your personal returns, business ones, an up-to-date balance sheet, cash flow projections for the business, and your debt schedule. And the reason that we're looking for all this is really to understand, as a lender, if you're going to be able to handle this debt. It's not in our interest or in your interest to take on too much debt that you won't be able to keep your business open and supporting yourself. Next slide. So then we're also going to ask you for some personal documents, including a resume, driver's license, authorization to pull your credit, and a personal financial statement. So in this, we're really trying to understand who the business owner is, what they're about, and if they're going to be a worthy person that's going to pay back the loan that we're giving them. Next slide. And then we're going to pull some business documents, and that includes your business plan, summary of management and operations, explaining what the loan is going to be used for, a lease if you're leasing a space, articles of organization, EIN, operating agreement, voided check, making sure the business is registered with the Secretary of State, and registering the business for a UEI. And these are really to help understand how the business works. So specifically, as a nonprofit lender, we're here to make sure that the business is really going to help the community that it's in, and it's going to help the business owner and create jobs. And so by us gathering all these documents, we can really get a fundamental understanding of how the business works, if the financial numbers even make sense for what we get, and it really gives us the full picture of what's happening in the business. Next slide. So Entrepreneur Fund couples all loans that we do with lending and advising. And this is really important because we can help you along the life of your business, make sure that you're making smart business choices that are going to keep you profitable, keep that cash flow coming. But one thing that we know from the advising realm is that it's important to have a plan to pay down your debt. And that cues up our next presenter, Brad, who is a grocer.
Thank you, Emily. And here's Brad.
My name is Brad Hoiness. My company's Rush Foods Incorporated, which operates 3 grocery stores in southeastern Minnesota, the communities of Rushford, Preston, and Harmony. And I'll be talking a little bit about budgeting, financial statements, and debt. So next slide, please. This is a system that's worked for me over the years, and I've refined it each year. And as technology improves and access to the data improves, I'm able to refine my budget. But using the previous year's actual sales, gross profits, and expenses as my guide to establish a detailed budget. And I don't only do the total sales, I do it by department. And that way each department sales level can be tracked once it hits the operating statement. The bullet points number 2 and 3 there are, I think the most important thing is you need to have a good perspective on your current market. And by attending the NGA show, or the National Grocers Association show, which is every year in February, this would give somebody a great key in on all the trends and an interaction networking with other grocers and retailers to help you not only find budgeting tools at this show, but also get you that perspective that you need. Number 3, developing that network of other grocers and retailers in similar sized communities. Some people in your community may not want to share a lot of data with you. They might be holding that close to the vest, but definitely get out maybe 100 miles away and visit some communities and see. Most grocers are very willing to share operational data, even financial data once you get to know them. Budget sales and gross profits conservatively, but expenses precisely. We always budget so that we can achieve our sales goals, and that helps make our operating statements and operations work well. Next, please. The operating statement, once you've got your budget in place, develop a disciplined system of daily bookkeeping and business accounting for each of these cutoff periods. We have 13 cutoff periods in our fiscal year, so each period is 4 weeks. Once you get that, you're able to compare the current 4-week period with last year, the same 4-week period. And that's the yellow shaded area on this graph or this document. And then the year-to-date results, which is the blue shaded, this year-to-date versus last year. And then finally, the year-to-date results compared to your budget year-to-date, which is the blue and the peach color there. And that's where you're seeing if you're meeting your budget or not. And once you know that, you can take actions based on those financial trends. And for example, in the short term, cutting labor is going to be much more effective than trying to increase sales rapidly. A lot of times when retailers try to increase sales rapidly, they discount the product so much there's not enough profit to pay for that extra sales and actually meet the bottom line. Next, please. Managing the debt, using your operating budget, you'll get to know how much total debt your operations can support, your business can support. We've generally invested in capital improvements that will provide a quick return on that investment. And most of our projects have been funded largely by cash on hand or energy efficiency grants for more up-to-date equipment that, again, reduces our electric bill. And what we've done by putting doors on most of our open refrigeration over the last 10 to 15 years, we've been able to also increase product quality and the shelf life of that product at our customers' homes as well. So those have been innovative things that we've done. Search out and invest in technologies that help you manage your business. There's a lot of apps out there and you can invest a lot of money that gets you in trouble, but find those ones, again, with your grocer network or retailer network on what makes sense and what gives you the data to run your business more effectively. We've got one that's very good on labor scheduling that's tied to our front end, so we can see not only our hours for that day, our labor hours, but it's tied right to our expenses. So we see a sales per labor hour in real time and for the day, for the week, for the month. And it gives us a great tool. Get your debt to a manageable level as fast as possible and be realistic with your total debt and take action before it's too late. Next slide. Similar to West Central, I serve on the board of the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, which is a similar organization in the southeast corner, serves 20 counties, business financing, and not only in the business financing, but there's a prosperity initiative program right now supporting the minority entrepreneurs. And one thing about these two programs is it offers technical assistance, and that's the best you can get, where you got another set of eyes on your business that's not in your business, so they can be very honest with you and how you're doing. And the Feast Marketplace event that SMIF is sponsored, and SMIF is the acronym for Southeastern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. That is an annual event, one in the fall and one in the spring, supporting local foods. There's more information there, and then I'll go to my last slide. That's my contact information, and be sure you can always reach out to me as one of your grocer networks, and I'd be happy to share information and tools to help you with your budgeting and operations. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for all the speakers with such great information from different perspectives. And I'm going to give it back to Phil here, and we're going to do an activity, and we're going to get into breakout soon, but Philip is going to explain what we're doing.
All right. So in the breakout rooms, you're going to get one of two examples. It's just going to be a quick little narrative about a store, and then part of their financial reports. These are really simple, basic kind of hypothetical reports. The situations really have happened, one to me, one to a coworker of mine. But these are both times where people were surprised when their lender said yes or no. One of them was surprised to get a yes when they were looking for a loan. The other was surprised to get a no. And as you're looking through the narrative and the financial statement in these breakout rooms, just try to figure it out. There's some clues in there, but you know a lot about stores. What doesn't make sense? What seems a little off? And pull on that thread a little bit. We'll come back together and talk about the full reveal, but I'm pretty confident you guys can find what's going on with these when you look over them.
Do a recap here, Phil? Or would it be good to share the screen or just chat?
Yeah, well, let's just talk it through. Does anyone have thoughts on example A, what they thought the reason for the no was when the person thought they were an easy loan? You can put it in the chat or just shout it out, whatever's easy. Or I can do it. So example A, let me quick share the screen. It's pretty simple here. This was a business that expected a simple yes when they went to their lender, because they had a business that in their mind was worth a ton of money. We see here on this kind of simplified, let me try to make this a little bit bigger for us. Okay, yeah. The simplified balance sheet. They looked at their business and said, we have total assets of 873,000. This is amazing. We're rolling in it. It was a really small little mom and pop store, about 2,000 square feet. They grossed maybe 15,000 in a week, not a ton. But they looked at this and said, we have got all these assets. When they looked at their QuickBooks, this is what it said. We have like no debt. We only owe $60,000. We're doing great. This is going to be so easy. And the bank said no. And the real reason it boiled down to was this inventory asset. $800,000 in inventory in a 2,000 square foot store. They do not have that in there. Physically, you couldn't fit it. And this is a thing where that relationship, it was real tough because we didn't know them. We didn't have any real connection to them. We're coming in out of the blue. We see these weird numbers. We got very spooked. What had happened was they'd never done a hard inventory in their store, ever. Anytime they needed things, they just kind of looked around the store, ordered what there wasn't enough of on the shelves, and added that to their inventory. They never once took things out of inventory for any reason except sales. So any spoilage, any shrink, anything that they just didn't sell out the front door never came off that number. And over the decades, they'd accumulated this crazy inventory number, which was just completely wrong. This ties into a lot of things, the importance of doing hard inventory checks. Just because you can see your whole store from the front door doesn't mean you don't need to do that. It's so important when you're then going to take that information, put it in a financial report, and present it to the world. It needs to be true. It needs to be trustworthy. And so that was a tough conversation for us to say, hey, we can't trust this number. They went back, they did some hard inventories, they got things figured out. The real number was in like the 40s, I want to say, for how much inventory they actually had on the shelves, which made way more sense. In the end, it was workable, but this was not at all reasonable for the lender at that point. Example B, similar sort of thing, except it was reversed. The person was coming in for a renewal. They'd never had a really bad year before. It'd been a real simple business. And they were expecting the bank to say no because that last year they'd had a loss. If we look at the simplified profit and loss statement, they lost about 95,000. And the giveaway on this one is this depreciation expense, 135,000 right there. They bought a lot of equipment over the recent time. And so they had a ton of new equipment that was all depreciating all at once and adding that big expense. And the bank, when we looked at it, we thought, well, hey, 135,000 in depreciation, that's not cash walking out the door. That's still cash. We can add that back to their income number as far as what they could use to pay a hypothetical loan. And so when you add that back, the other one, interest expense of 6,000, It's a little tricky because interest expense is money leaving the store, but it's going to the bank. They only had one loan. It was that. So that's 6,000. They're not going to count that against you. That's money going to the bank. So if you add that 141 back, you end up with a store that cash flow wise gained about $45,000 in cash. That was more than enough to cover the amount of the loan going forward. So the bank had no problem saying yes. But just examples where it's kind of good to put on a banker hat, put on a lender hat. How are they going to look at this differently? Do they think of my collateral, my stuff, the same way I do? Are these numbers trustworthy? Do they look at my profitability the same way I do? Do they, no, they think about cash. Cash flow is the thing that pays loans. And if you've got a good relationship with a banker, they can help you walk through with that. If you've got a good relationship with like a CDFI, some technical assistance, use them until they stop answering the phone. They're so good. Um, Run these things by them. They are going to be a huge resource. Talk to other grocers. These things are all great.
Thanks so much, Phillip. We're going to have Brad, if you wanted to give some final thoughts on lending, some final last advice, being a store owner yourself, just to wrap up here.
Well, I think kind of based on your last comment asking for feedback, one thing we noticed through COVID and since then is that labor market was so tough to hire anybody. We ended up cutting some hours just to have enough staff to stay open. But one thing we've thought midway through there was that we moved a lot of our part-time employees to full-time so that we had more ability to schedule hours. And that proved to be a very good strategy in the short term. And we had to adjust our budget and understand taking on those additional vacation benefits, health insurance benefits, and what goes along with full-time. So, that ended up helping us out in the short term. And it's really been a good thing for us, our companies, because we moved out of our 105 employees, and we moved about 10 during that year and a half to full-time. So that gave us the ability to operate our businesses effectively, our stores effectively. And then we just were able to digest those expenses and over time. And as that's transpired, as people have gotten increases over each year, now what we're fighting is making sure we manage our labor very effectively so that we don't overspend on the labor dollars because we do have those extra benefits that we are paying. But it was a good strategy in the short term, and it's been a good thing long term. And now as the labor markets are opening up a little bit for grocers to hire more part-time, we're hoping to find our way back to that right part-time versus full-time product or employee mix so it doesn't hurt our expenses so much in that side of the equation. So that's kind of my final thought on you have to get out and adapt and visit with other grocers and find your own techniques to run your business because there's running any small business just because it's small doesn't mean it's easy. So every small business is very difficult because you're wearing all those hats. So I'd applaud everybody who takes it on, and thanks for joining this webinar. I think this is, since you're here, it means you want to learn more about running your business. So I think that's all the great starting point for everybody.
Yeah, I'm just going to share as we got another few minutes here, if everybody has in mind, just a few opportunities potentially, so that we're talking about looking at your initiative foundation. So everybody's kind of got one in their region. This is West Central's website here. I noticed that this Promise Act, this is not a loan per se, but this is a more of a grant, and we're going to be a little advertising for next week here. We're going to be talking about grants. We're also going to be putting up all the resources we have here, the video, and all the resources that all the speakers are going to combine, PDFs and links back onto our Shelf Life page. So this will be your home resource page. We've got the stuff from last month right here on finance if you want to watch that video, and then ours will be right here. And that'll do it. Well, thanks everybody. Feel free to reach out to me or any of the speakers here if you have more questions, or if you're getting that next loan. So join us next week on June 4th. We'll be first Wednesdays of the month at 3 p.m. And if you're already registered for this session here, you'll be registered for the next one. So without any questions, thanks everybody. See you next time.